Three, two, one. James Pligge, how you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, man? How's it going?
Good, good. How you enjoying this Chicago sunny Monday that we got here?
Pretty good. Over the fourth, I got a little sun. I'm all sunburned,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to stay out of it today, at least.
Oh yeah, yeah. I saw that. I saw that you were out there. Is that your girlfriend you were with?
Yeah, yeah, that's my girlfriend.
Nice, man.
So yeah, spent some time at her pool, so that was fun.
Right on, right on. Um, Let me ask you, I think the question everybody has for you, and that is, how have you been staying so in shape with everything that's been going on?
Uh, I really lucked out because my dad has a full gym in his basement, so I just go and work out down there. 3 4 times a week. I literally have like a power rack, dumbbells up to 75. There's like machines down there, so like,
He's got a full
um,
setup.
yeah, yeah, it's the real deal. So I never really worried about staying in shape, during the pandemic when a lot of things were closed. But to be honest, even now, like, my gym is open, but I don't really feel comfortable like going and like being around lots of people just because like there's people in my life that are susceptible to the virus actually. So like I um, can't really expose myself to maybe open up, giving it to somebody and then they'll end up being hospitalized. Like I don't want to be responsible for that. So I figure I have the gym down there. I have a punching bag. I can because I also do martial arts. So like but I figure that could wait a little bit. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to rush back. Those things will be there when the virus is over. But if you get the virus and you get sick, I don't want to be responsible for passing it on to anybody that I care about. So
Right on, man. I feel the same way. My gym also opened up in downtown Chicago, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be the first guy to get it there, or be the one that spreads it amongst any family or friends. What,
yeah, no,
uh, what kind of workout regimen do you follow? Do you do like a split? Do you try to?
I mean, to be honest, like pretty much basically from like age 15 to like 20, I just did bodybuilding.
Hmm.
Um, and I got kind of tired of bodybuilding. I mean, obviously, all lifting is like coming to a goal of strength and muscle building, but I got more into powerlifting when I was like 21, 22. And then I pretty much follow like powerlifting style workouts. I mean, to be honest, like I'm not super concerned about my strength anymore. My body's been through a lot with touring and lifting weights for at this point almost 20 years. So I just it came a point where I had to like kind of decide how I wanted to approach working out, and I've kind of come to a more of a stay in shape, keep my strength, keep my muscle as best I can. But the days of like trying to gain like 25 pounds of muscle and like gaining you know 100 pounds on my deadlift in a year or two, I don't really care as much anymore, I guess. But I mean, I still like lifting. I still like obviously athletics and stuff. But I just have to approach it different because like I was just getting hurt a lot,
Right.
and I have a herniated disc, and I have shoulder problems. I probably have torn rotator cuff right now. So like it comes to a point where it's just like what is it worth it? Do you want to work out to be healthy, or do you want to work out to like compete? And for me, like I just don't really care about that anymore. I'm approaching 35. Not that that's old, but it's like I kind of looking at life a little bit differently as far as athletics. So basically, I'll do like a heavy upper body day, heavy lower body day. I'll do in either a, a lighter lower body or a lighter upper body, depending on the week. So usually I'm only lifting like 3 times a week right now, but then I'll do 2 additional days of um, either cardio, or I do Muay Thai when the virus is not going on. So I do some Muay Thai workouts on the bag, and then I'll do some running. Um,
Hmm.
and honestly, I've lost like 14 pounds
Oh,
since March. Just I don't know if it's stress or a combination of
right,
stress
right.
and in the different styles of working out. But no, yeah, it's honestly I feel better, a little bit lighter anyway. So I'm kind of happy about that. But that's kind of where my lifting is right now. To be honest, it's nothing
Right.
nothing too exciting.
I feel you on those herniated discs, man. I have three of them myself, and let me tell you, one wrong, it really makes sure you're correct on your form. Like if you do a
Yeah.
deadlift wrong, you feel it for a while.
Yeah. I had to completely switch. I used to be only conventional deadlifter,
Hmm.
and I had to completely switch to sumo because I can't really. I mean, maybe it was probably like 8 weeks ago. I did like heavier conventional deadlifting for the first time in a long time, and like I worked up to maybe 80% of like my max, and like it hurt. Like I could tell that it was aggravating my disc. So like that's what I'm saying. Like at some point, it's just like there's have to be risks and rewards to like lifting weights. And for me, it's like why risk being in a wheelchair to like deadlift 700 pounds? Like I don't need to
Right.
do that. Is it like that point of my life is like it's kind of past as far as like lifting goals. I pretty much lifted all the goals I ever wanted to, and I took this much farther than I ever wanted to. So it's just like at this point, I want to stay healthy. I want to stay, as strong as possible. Obviously, still have muscle because I like that aesthetic. But I mean, if it's gonna make you in pain or like wake up when you're 50 and have to use a cane or some shit, like I'm all right on that.
You're right. So you're just in the maintenance phase now.
Yeah, I mean, it might change too. I don't want to say it's like a final, like forever, but I'm just saying, like, right now, the way life is and like how my body feels, like, that's where I'm at.
So how would you maintain it when you were on tour? Because I saw you live in Tucson, man, and I swear you were the biggest guy in that entire venue.
I mean, I mean, I've talked about it in other interviews before or podcasts or whatever, but I mean, I basically, we just work on tour. Like, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, the whole band, like, kind of started getting into lifting weights.
Hmm.
So, like, it's just I mean, when touring becomes part of your normal life, then like you have to incorporate living routines into touring. You can't eat fast food every day. Like you can't just be sitting around at the venue. You have to incorporate healthy living on tour, and a lot of bands don't do that, right? A lot of bands eat whatever the hell they want. They never work
Hmm.
out. They drink every day, and like that's just not the lifestyle I'm gonna live. I mean, I'd rather quit touring and live a healthy lifestyle if it came down to it, because at the end of the day, like that's most important,
Of
having
course.
healthy body, healthy mind, those are the two most important things. And I think a lot of people would argue that music obviously contributes to both those things, so like obviously music is a big part of my life and I want to keep doing it, but like if I ever questioned that it was messing up you know, my health or messing up, my relationships or messing up other things, then I definitely have to question that. So like that's the difference between like touring now and touring, when I was 24, 25. I mean, you really have to kind of think about how things are affecting your life as a whole, as opposed to like when we were in college, we only toured 6 weeks a year, so it didn't really matter. But yeah, I mean, we usually go to the YMCA because it's accessible everywhere, and they honor your membership pretty much in every state, which is nice. So you're only paying for one membership, and then pretty much, as far as food goes, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's always healthy because it's impossible. But we're big on like those healthier food chains, like fast food chains, like Chipotle or like Noodles and Company, like Potbelly, Jersey Mike, like those types of places where you can get a healthier meal, um, and it's not as bad, obviously, as McDonald's, Wendy's, those types of
Right.
places. But
Right.
I try my best. I mean, obviously, I'm kind of fortunate. I have really good genetics, so to be honest, if I never worked out until I was 40 again, I probably wouldn't look too much different.
Right. Right.
And that's like, I mean, that's not really fair, but that's just the truth,
Right.
because there's times where, I mean, like, I haven't gone more than 2 months, I don't think ever, without working out since I was 15. But that's because I had a broken arm. And even like in those 2 months, like I didn't really lose size or muscle mass, and I just kind of lucky because my dad was always really into lifting, and he was always a big guy, and he could gain muscle easy, and my family in general is very athletic, so like I'm kind of lucky. My diet is not great, to be honest. Like it's pretty suspect a lot of times, but obviously I make up for it by working out harder, but it's possible that will catch up to me at some point.
You're not
But
doing the cookies and red meat diet that you were on there for a little while.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that was just joke. I mean, that was obviously a joke, but like I'm a big sweet guy. I crave sugar all the time, which isn't good.
Right.
But like if people followed my diet, they would laugh because like I drink 4 or 5 Cokes a day. I like you know I drink a lot of coffee. I eat a lot of eggs. I eat a lot of bacon. Eat a lot of steak. Um, which, in my opinion, those are good things for building muscle. My general health, is pretty good. Like I go to the doctor. My blood work is good. So like
Stick
that's
to
all
what
I
you're
can really
doing.
ask for.
Right. Yeah, I think the biggest thing when it comes to physical fitness that I've talked to people about, and it the biggest thing seems to be that once you've reached that point where no matter what, you know you're going to exercise that day, is when you know that you're actually at that point of really taking it serious. Like if you know no matter what is going to happen that day, like let's say you have all types of appointments or whatever it may be, you're still going to be in that gym that day. That I think that's really what separates a lot of people from just people that casually, tend to go. Because, like you're saying, when you're on tour, no matter what, you're finding a way to work out at the YMCA. Which shout out the YMCA. It's a great company. They let me in for free actually when I was first joining the Marine Corps. I went in there and I told
Sure.
them I was like, "Hey, I'm joining the military. I need to get in shape fast." And they were like, "You can use our gym whenever." They're a great gym. And
Yeah, yeah. I always tell people that like everything is about consistency. Like if you like, I would say the number one question I get about my physique or whatever is like, how did you get so big, or how did you get to the level you are? And it's like, for me, it's not really. I didn't do anything special. All I do was work out consistently.
mhm,
4 or 5 days a week for the last 20 years. Like, and that's like a thing that I think people need to understand is it's not like, yeah, sure, you could do a cycle of steroids and you could lift for 6 months and you might look good for a little bit,
right.
but like to really build like muscle that's permanent and like build muscle maturity as you get older, that comes with consistency, and it comes with discipline, and it comes with a lot of things that people only want to do temporarily, right? Because
Mhm,
let's face it, working out isn't always great. Like, I don't love working out, to be honest. Like, I don't like going to the gym and having to do it all the time, but I know if I don't, there's consequences to that.
mhm,
And I think like once you realize that like that's just part of your routine, just like eating lunch or going to work is, then like you don't really think about it. It's not really like, oh, I'm gonna do this today or I'm not. It's just this is my routine. This is my life, you know. And I think a lot of people have a hard time doing that because it sucks. Let's face it. It sucks to go after you worked a long day and go to the gym. But like I think people overestimate sometimes how much effort you have to actually put in, right? Because you don't need to be there for 2 hours. Even a 40-minute workout every day is going to build over time as long as it's consistent,
Mm-hmm.
and like that's one thing I notice most people that it's just they want to do it for 8 weeks and never do it again. And
Right.
like, it's just that's not how it works. I wish it was, but
Yeah, I think everybody does. How much would you say being straight edge yourself, has played into your fitness lifestyle? How much has it benefited you?
I mean, to be honest, it's not really that big of a deal to me anymore, just because that's just the way my lifestyle is. It's not even something I think about really. Um, you know, if I thought for a second that being straight edge was not the best way for me or not the healthiest lifestyle that I wanted to live, then I wouldn't be a part of it anymore. But as far as I'm concerned, I've said this other times, is that being present mentally is very important to me, and I don't want to escape by using substances. So as far as like health goes, I mean, I don't think it's healthy mentally to escape with substances. But like I think there are some exceptions, right? Like let's say I break my back and I have chronic back pain for the rest of my life. Is it really healthier to take Norcos and Vicodins every day? Or is it, healthier to, smoke a joint or something, you know? So like, I don't think, I don't think there's absolutes sometimes when it comes to like lifestyle choices and things like that, because sometimes there might be a healthy alternative that I disagree with doing right now that I might have to do at some point, you know? But until that point comes, like, I still feel this is the best lifestyle for me, you know? And I guess, like, while we're on the topic, a lot of people ask always if I take steroids or whatever. Um, and I've never taken anything. I've never taken any anabolics, actually. But I also don't think that taking anabolic steroids or taking things that are aiding in your progression as, a healthy person are going to be considered not straight edge. But that's personal to me. Like if I'm 38 and I have low testosterone and you go on testosterone replacement therapy to better your life, to better your, to build more muscle, to lose fat, how could someone argue that that's not straight edge? You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Because what's the point of being straight edge? Is the point of being straight edge just to say you're something, or is it to actually be productive in your lifestyle and live a healthier lifestyle, whether it's physically or mentally? And that's like really the challenge, that I think a lot of people, they just look at straight edge as the absolute, right? There's no gray area, and I used to be that way,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, like, you're not gonna eat tiramisu for what? What's the point? You're not. What's the function of why you're not eating tiramisu?
Right,
Because it's drizzled with 0.01% alcohol on top.
right.
I mean, I used to not drink mouthwash.
Really?
Yeah, like not drink mouthwash, but use mouthwash,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because it had alcohol in it. But like, again, what's the function? Am I drinking mouthwash to get drunk? No. Am I using mouthwash to make sure I don't get gingivitis? Yeah. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
and like the same thing goes for foods. Like I'm not going to like drink actual alcohol, but like if you cook with wine sauce or something like that, like why? Like what's the function of avoiding it? Is it because you're afraid of how people will judge you as someone who's straight edge, or like I guess what's the reason? You know? And I guess as you get older, as a person who's never used drugs or never drank alcohol, you have to kind of look at those things and kind of really think about what is important and what's just ridiculous, you know?
Yeah, I
Um,
I definitely think that as of right now, it seems like there is sort of a gray area on like what you were talking about with where the straight edge community stands on like something such as medical marijuana that could potentially benefit somebody's life a whole lot as opposed to just taking painkillers like you were saying. But there's
exactly. Yeah.
also this known stigma around marijuana, you know, if it gets you high and stuff like that. But I see exactly what you're saying. You know, if it benefits your life and it's helping you along, then who is anybody to say you're not straight edge for doing that? You
Sure.
know?
But the argument always is then, okay, if drinking a beer after a long day's work helps you, then what's really separating, the stance of being straight edge and not? But I think the difference is the function of alcohol. There's no benefits to alcohol really,
Hmm.
right? People will argue that there's benefits to red wine. Well, it's only because it has antioxidants, and we can get antioxidants from a million other things, right?
Right.
We even have supplements that have the specific antioxidant that's in red wine, which is resveratrol. So like that's obsolete. But the benefits of like marijuana or like THC or CBD, I mean, those can't be replicated by anything else, you know, without obviously damage, right? If you take Norcos every day, you're gonna either A, be addicted to painkillers, or B, have severe kidney and liver issues for the rest of your life, you know? So that's what I mean. Like, at what point is your decision to be straight edge more important than your actual health? And I think, like, a lot of people don't want to talk about it because it's, obviously, I don't want to say it's like a sensitive subject or anything, but it's just like, at the end of the day, like, all people, let's take people who have anxiety or depression.
Hmm.
They're on like all these pharmaceutical meds, and you're like, okay, well, is that really better for you? If you could take a natural supplement, like CBD, that maybe has a little bit of THC that, maybe would help that person just the same without any negative side effects,
Right.
and I just think like we've come to like in a society think that anything that a doctor prescribes is okay and healthy, which is clearly not true, you
Right.
know.
Right.
Um, and I think like you know anyone who's straight edge, I think I just sometimes question what's the reasoning of being straight edge? Is it to better your life or is it just to be a part of something? You
And
know?
I think that's where a lot of it does come down to. I think a lot of people see the scene, they see what it represents, and they're like, how can I get behind this? Because, for example, with myself, I'm not straight edge. However, Henry Rollins got me into hardcore, punk rock, all that stuff. And the message he was preaching at the time that I discovered his music was that idea of self accountability that you would hear in his music, just who are you to want to attack the government if you're not even out here bettering yourself? And I think that when it comes to the straight edge community and anybody who may have opposing thoughts to what like you're saying, I, I I think they're just kind of in too deep with it, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that they really feel that message and they're just like, this is what I gotta roll with because this is who I am now, or whatever it may be. But
Sure. I mean, I think also too you got to understand that a lot of people become straight edge when they're like 15.
right.
How
Yeah.
many ideas did you have when you were 15 that you would look back on now and say that's ridiculous, right?
Exactly.
And listen, like I I think the straight edge lifestyle is important to me and is important to my progression mentally and physically. But to hold people accountable for things they decided when they were 15, when they're 30, I mean, I just don't think that that's a realistic expectation.
Right. Right.
I mean, obviously, if my friends break edge, I obviously make fun of them, you know,
Yeah.
but I'm just busting them a little bit, you know. It's like, because at the end of the day, like, I'm a person who is a strong believer in the individual, right? And making individual decisions for yourself and being who you are. I would never hold someone accountable for something they didn't want to be a part of anymore just because, you said that when you were 15 that you were going to do something forever.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
to me, that's just an unintelligent point of view, you know?
Yeah, and
But, sorry, go ahead.
I think that when it comes down to a lot of people within the I think that when you boil down to straight edge, it really is, the whole it goes into hardcore. Straight edge and hardcore just go hand in hand
Sure.
together. And it really breaks off from like that 1980s era of punk music when it was really just self destructive. Not all of it, of course, but there was a lot of it at the time
Yeah,
that
of
was.
course.
And yeah, I gotta completely agree with you though. I think it's silly to hold somebody accountable for anything that they may have said. Oh, I was straight edge when I was 15. I don't think you should hold anybody, to that for the rest of their life. And as far as straight edge really goes, I definitely I think it's very applaudable. I think it's very respectable because you yourself said you've never done any drugs or alcohol, right?
No.
Not in your entire life.
No, I mean, I think the most I mean, when I was younger, obviously it took sips of beer from my parents, or you know, I think when I was in seventh grade, my dad handed me a cigar and I took a puff, but I just never had the desire to do that, and a lot of it has to do with I want to be mentally present,
Right.
and I've said this before, but I think it's important when you're experiencing life, if you numb all the emotions and things that you have to feel, I think you're really doing yourself a disservice, because life is full of ups and downs, right? You know, we have to take the bad with the good. You know, we all know that one day we're all going to die.
Right.
If every time someone in your life moves on, you start getting high, using different substances, getting drunk, numbing the pain. I just never felt that that's a good way to deal with those things. Of course, I feel pain every day, physically and mentally. I struggle with anxiety, I struggle with depression. But the way I deal with those things is, in my opinion, a much better way than using substances. And that's a big part of why I'm still straight edge, you know, because I think finding healthy alternatives to dealing with depression, anxiety, sadness, those types of things, you know, in the long run is just going to be overall better for your health. If every time I feel that way, I go lift weights, or I go play music, or, you know, I go help somebody,
Right.
God forbid you leave your house and you help somebody.
Right. Stanley
um,
Kubrick had a great quote, kind of like what you were just saying, is that the beauty in life, and I'm just paraphrasing it, I'm not
sure.
quoting him, but the beauty in life really does come from the ups and downs, and being intoxicated all the time, you're not going to really experience those ups and downs to
Exactly.
really grasp how to project that into art or whatever it may be that you're trying to do with your life, you know?
No, absolutely. And I mean, at the end of the day, if everything is good all the time, then you're really not. Then that just becomes normal.
Mhm.
So when something really good happens, like maybe you find a relationship and you fall in love. you know, that feeling can be so great and so, overwhelming to somebody who, has maybe never experienced that before, you know, but at the same time, if you're constantly, just numbing pain, feeling happy, doing this, then, that might not hit you as hard. You might not be able to feel, that as much as someone who obviously had some hardships or came from somewhere, you know, where they had to work very hard for something or whatever, So
Right.
I just think that life is full of ups and downs, and you need to experience all of them. And I prefer to deal with the lows, with positive expressions, like I said, music, lifting weights, exercise. Even I like playing golf or doing stuff like that. I like gambling a lot, even though I would say that's questionable, is if that's healthy or not. Um, but that's how I deal with my issues,
Right.
and I think a lot of people, I mean, a lot of my friends and people I know, they deal with things with substances,
Hmm.
and I just don't think that that's the best route to a positive lifestyle, if you will.
Right.
So,
Right. So with everything going on right now with COVID and all that, what have you been doing with all of this free time that's presented you with in terms
I
of?
mean, basically like March, April, May, I was, honestly, I was in a pretty bad spot mentally. It was just kind of, you didn't really know what was going to come, right? Is the virus going to get worse? Am I going to go back to work? Where am I going to get money? So, I try to keep occupied, obviously, played a lot of video games, played a lot of Call of Duty. Uh, I, was reading a lot about stocks. I'm really interested in stocks and investing. And then I started to learn Spanish, so I spent a lot of time with that. And then like mid-May, I met a girl actually, and we're dating, so I pretty much just hang out with her a lot, to be honest. Which has been really good. So, um, I've been trying to keep myself busy because I mean, like I said, I don't know when work's gonna come back. I don't know when
Right.
shows are gonna come back. Harm's Way also had been working. We're writing a new record, so we've actually spent a lot of time writing music on Zoom actually, just because we couldn't really meet in person because a couple of our band members, they have lower immune systems, so like we can't
Hmm.
really risk transferring the virus to them because of obvious obvious reasons, right?
Right.
Obviously you wouldn't want to sacrifice, getting together and someone dying, just
Right.
because you wanted to play music for, an hour. So we found a good way to write music over the Zoom, and it's been working really well. So we got like probably 12 or 13 new songs that we're working on right now, and we're gonna probably hopefully finalize those in the next 2 or 3 months, and then hopefully record either early or late this year, maybe December, or early next year, and then hopefully have a new record out before next summer. That's the goal. Obviously, coronavirus pending, but
Right. You've been staying productive though, man. That's great to hear. And
yeah, man, I can't just sit around and do nothing. To be honest, I would go into a deep depression if I did that.
right.
So I know myself well. I know that it's important, obviously to keep, try to keep it a normal lifestyle as possible. So, obviously I'm still working out it, as much as I can. Um, trying to live a normal life as much as possible, even though it's virtually impossible to live a normal life, when everything's closed, can't work, you know,
Right.
and whatever.
So
But yeah, that's about it.
how is your has your label came out and said anything as far as like coronavirus restrictions go? Like do they have any plan going into the rest of the year for how to approach this, or are they just kind of like, hey, we're just as lost as you guys? And
I mean, honestly, it's really dependent. It's just dependent on like what happens because I mean, not going to name any states in particular, but some of them didn't exactly follow, protocol of what was recommended by the CDC, and now I think we're in a little deeper shit than we expected to be at this point. So, I think it's, don't get me wrong, it's definitely difficult to just abandon all life and, just be like, okay, well, yeah, let's wait this out, not have any hangouts with your friends, not go out to eat, not go to work, especially when the government has been very, let's say, inefficient in dealing with this problem. But at the end of the day, if we all would have done exactly what was recommended at the beginning, I think we would be in a much better position. But unfortunately, the leader of this country, I hate to even call him a leader because he's not a leader, but he's definitely not done the correct things to make, the situation better with any of the issues that are going on right now. Right. I mean, there's a total lack of leadership going on in our country right now, and it's really showing. I mean, we obviously, America looks like a laughing stock to the rest of the world, when I mean, I don't even know what the statistics are now on a daily basis of increase in coronavirus cases, but I mean, if you just look at some of the videos that were circling the internet, over July 4th, I mean, people just don't care.
right.
I mean, and if no one cares about getting rid of the virus and they aren't taking it seriously, then it's not going to go away. And then we're going to be dealing with this shit for, 2 years, because people, want to go to the beach.
Yeah.
So
that's the really unfortunate part with all of this from the start is it's just been so many people are like, no, I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to hear any of that. I'm just going to go about my life.
sure.
And we're really, I mean, what we've really witnessed here is America is kind of pretty much 50%ed trying to handle this. And now we're dealing with the aftermath of, here we are in July and we're still looking at numbers that look like March, in terms of people that are getting it, people that are dying, you know.
I mean, and that what I guess the unfortunate part is, viruses in general are supposed to be down in the summer. That's
right.
just kind of the flow of how that works. So what's going to happen in fall or winter when the virus in general will probably be, people will become more susceptible. They'll be, in regular society even more because the flu will come back. I mean, I just don't see, that's what I'm saying when it comes to shows. I don't see a solution really when it comes to going back to playing shows because I don't feel comfortable playing shows, in front of crowds of 100 to 500 people. I mean, and how are you going to social distance at a show?
Right.
Are we going to wear masks at shows? Like what's going to it just, I think there's a certain level of compromise that I'm willing to do to play show. But at the end of the day, we have to be safe. We have to be healthy. And the last thing I want to do is cause, even more issues by playing shows too early or doing a tour too early.
Right.
Because obviously I think the music industry in general is hit very hard by this thing because there's really no way to kind of make up not playing shows at venues, because booking agents, managers, bands, venue managers, labels. There's a long list of people who are affected that there's really no way to make it up.
Right.
You can't. I mean, yeah, we could do shows on the internet, but like people could watch fucking YouTube.
Right.
Like what's really separating that? And we in Harm's Way has discussed, doing something like that, maybe doing a live practice, you know, maybe debuting new songs, but like I don't know, like it's just obviously live music is like something completely different than watching something over the internet. So it's impossible to recreate that if you're not present.
And that definitely seems to be the general thought process with a lot of musicians. Is you're not really seeing them putting out any work yet because, just like you were saying, it's really not the same right now, and we're at this weird point of we really nobody seems to know what the hell is going on with any of
No,
this. Um, so how long do you think it would take before musicians just in general try to start at least putting out music again? Because we're going on almost 5 months here of this, and we don't have any new movies coming out. We don't have any music really coming out. So
I mean, I think music. I mean, I think putting out music is doable. I mean, because
mhm,
you're really only working with two people plus your members of your band. Um, but I think the issue is less to do with that and more so putting out a new record and not touring on it is straight up useless.
right, right,
Like if you can't tour on the record to promote it, then you might as well not put out the record.
right.
Because obviously a large part of getting music out and putting new records out is touring.
Hmm.
People experiencing the new music live. I mean, obviously it's nice to have new music that you can listen to at home, but I think a lot of bands in general putting out a record now is a disaster.
Right.
Like, I mean, because not only maybe you could say, okay, I'm going to put the record out now, and then maybe 3 months we'll be able to tour. But I don't know if that's accurate. It could be 6 months, could be 12 months. So like
Yeah.
you're going to risk putting out a record in the midst of a pandemic when there's just too many unknowns. Because I mean, let's face it, investing in a record costs lots of money, thousands and thousands of dollars, right? I mean, you're talking when it's all said and done, you're spending about 50, 60 grand.
Hmm.
So what is like, obviously music is not solely about money, but if you're going to lose, $40,000,
Right.
that's not doable. And a lot of bands right now, I mean, there's no income coming in. There's online shirt sales. That's it. Or the minuscule amount you get from streaming. So I think at the end of the day, it's more so, I mean, you have to start thinking long term. Releasing a record now is a bad idea, you know? And I mean, same things go with any entertainment.
Hmm.
Like, you're going to release a movie that no one can go see in theaters? You know,
Right.
I don't know. It's just, I think, unfortunately, that the entertainment industry is going to be probably hit the hardest out of anything
Hmm.
when it's all said and done. Because, I mean, you're talking Live Nation, which I hate Live Nation, but at the end of the day, as a business, their job is to sell tickets.
Right.
And, like, what are they going to do? They probably have, I mean, I saw that they had some lawsuits because they can't refund tickets that were back in March. So people are going to wait a year until the show happens again.
Right.
So it's
Right.
like, think about all that money that came in, and then the shows never happened, and then now they want their money back. So now you're like literally in billions of dollars of debt because there's you didn't make any money for 6 months, zero. Like, I mean, that's the thing. I don't know what the solution is, but at the end of the day, the longer this goes on, I think the more and more issues are going to arise, specifically from the entertainment industry. But
I mean, this definitely seems to have kind of gotten in the way of the momentum that the hardcore and all the subgenres that branch off of it, the momentum that you guys were building. Like, seemed like Harm's Way, Knocked Loose, Vane, Code Orange. It seemed like you guys are really kind of breaking into like the mainstream almost. Like, I wouldn't say you're completely mainstream, but you guys were becoming more and more known around that 2017 to
sure,
2020 window. And it really is unfortunate that this has just kind of really gotten in the way of that, because you guys are still at that level of playing at just venues as opposed to, like, sold out stadium tours that like Metallica might do, or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
of course. I mean, at the end of the day, it's more so, there was definitely like some momentum in the metal world with a lot of bands. Um, and like, I mean, Harm's Way had some really good tours set up actually for the fall. And I mean, those probably won't ever happen again,
Right.
because I mean, who knows what position we will be in a year.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it's just a price you pay, I guess. I mean, obviously nobody could have predicted a global pandemic, so
Sure.
it, it's just one of those things where you just kind of have to go with the flow. There's no reason in trying to, think about what could have happened or what should have happened or whatever. You just have to deal with what's in front of you. And I think a lot of bands are trying to just get by right now.
Hmm.
But obviously, it's become increasingly difficult with even getting a job. Period.
Hmm.
You know, is it worth it to really go work at Target for $8.50 an hour when you could potentially get a illness that will kill you?
Right.
I don't know. So like there's a lot more important things going on in the world than worrying about shows or
Yeah.
worrying about getting back to, you know, a consistent touring schedule. I'm worried about paying bills. I'm worried
Hmm.
about, the world, trying to improve itself with all that's going on and the disaster of the leadership that's been going on. I think those are much larger issues than playing a show at this point. In all honesty, it's not really of my concern as much right now. I want things to really start to improve politically, you know, and obviously with a lot of the injustices that are happening and a lot of the issues going on with the pandemic, I just think that those are the things that we should be thinking about. And obviously, it. I mean, people use entertainment, sports, music, movies, all those things to kind of deal with all the bullshit in the world, and those things have been taken away from us
Hmm.
for the most part. So I understand that it's not easy to just be consumed with all this negativity all the time. However, um, that's life. I mean, whether you go back to, the 20s, the 40s, the 60s, there's always bullshit going on, and it's always bad, And I think, how are you going to deal with it? How you going to go forward, you know? And I think as a band, as a person, I think we all need to start thinking about that. So, I mean, that's how I feel about it.
And that's definitely the most interesting part with all this right now, is I think it's definitely kind of called everybody to, they have to pay attention to what's going on right now. We have coronavirus. We have what appears to be a war lingering over our heads, with China. It's getting pretty in our face with, we have to be kind of paying attention to what we're doing and the consequences of our actions. Like you said, you're not going to want to go out and then potentially infect the rest of your band members or your family. And people like you are the ones who have been hit the most by this. You have pretty much lost a huge chunk of your livelihood, if I'm not wrong. With
Sure, yeah. I mean, pretty much yeah. I mean, literally all of my income is gone. So,
right. But yeah, I mean, it's we're at a very interesting point in history right now. With the whole Black Lives Matter, this is by far the most I've seen anybody behind the whole Black Lives Matter movement is right
sure.
now. Um, we have a portion of the country that just doesn't think that the virus exists, and a portion of the country that's wanting to follow by what the CDC is saying. And it's this is also, I would probably say, the longest time in recent history that we've gone this long without media. and I'm not talking news media, but I'm talking like we were just talking about. We don't have movies coming out. We don't have albums coming out. We don't have really anything to kind of distract people. No sports, like you were just saying. So I really hope that when all of this is over, we can all kind of take a step back and appreciate the things that we really do have and just be happy with what there is and take times to appreciate the bands such as yourself or just any other smaller time bands. I mean, I wouldn't really say Harm's Way is small time at all, but that are out there that really rely on the fan base to stay a part of the scene. How how has how has the recording process gone with Zoom and all that? Like, is it more difficult? Is it just as easy?
I mean, so basically what we do is we have Ableton.
Hmm.
We hook up Ableton to Twitch so that only we can hear it. There's about a 30-second delay. So the reason why we do that is we can't directly transfer music over Zoom because it has like gates on sound.
Hmm.
So you can't hear certain frequencies through Zoom. So by doing it through Twitch and by connecting it directly to Ableton, we can hear exactly what we need. And Casey in our band is extremely good at, producing drums and kind of doing a rough mix of like what it actually would sound like if we were playing it live. So like we all get on there, Chris, our drummer, he will say, okay, I like these drums. I want these style of drums here. So we have a lot of like songs that are done that are like essentially placeholders.
Hmm.
Obviously, when we play something live, the way we play it's going to be a little bit different, or the way Chris plays the drums are going to be different. But we have a lot of songs that are completed where, okay, this is the idea or this is the style that we want to have. Until we actually meet and play, I mean, who knows what the final product's going to end up being like? But obviously, I think as far as like getting things done, Zoom is great. There's not a lot of distractions because when we're all on here, we're all focused on
Right.
writing, focused on each other. When we're in a physical space, there's lots of distractions. People are on their phone. People are, you know, we're just, bullshitting. We're doing whatever. So I think um, there's definitely some benefits to it, but I think overall, at the end of the day, nothing's going to get done officially until we, are able to practice consistently.
Right.
And to be honest, I don't know when that's going to be able to happen. So I don't know what the future is for when our record's going to come out or when we're going to be able to record or any of that right now because there's just so much stuff that's kind of, you know, just not. There's so much uncertainty, I guess,
Right. Right.
and I don't like I said before, I have no idea when things are going to start to fall back to normal and when people are going to be comfortable enough to start getting together and and then on top of that we have to make sure if we're going to record, what's the process with that, what's the process of keeping people healthy and safe. And I mean, there's just so many unknowns right now that I think the best thing to do is just keep working on stuff. And that's what we've been doing. We're trying to work on music as much as we can. I've been working on lyrics. We've been working on, revising the songs that we already have. And, at the end of the day, hopefully all the work that we've put in will pay off because we will have so much experience with what we have already that it won't be, some long drawn out process when we try to actually, put the music to in the recording studio, and that's my goal, or that's my hope, is that all of this will end up being for something really good and really, far beyond what we've done before. But until I know that we can record or when we can record or when we're expected to go on tour again, it's hard to really have like a timeline or have a, kind of this all in mentality, because it's
Right.
kind of just like, all right, like, you know, maybe in 6 months I'll have $0 and, I'll have to work 3 jobs just to get by. I don't know. So, that's kind of where I'm at with all that, but
Well, you guys really knocked it out of the park with that last album that you guys made, and
appreciate that.
that's what's really unfortunate. Is I think a lot of your guys' fans were looking forward to seeing how you guys were going to follow that up, because Harm's Way has seemed to consistently been getting better with each album release. And how have you guys been? What equipment have you guys been using to record with Zoom? Like, are you guys just using kind of like bare bones approach, or is it? Would you
I
say
mean,
you guys have most of the equipment that you need?
recording with Zoom is straight up. If you have Ableton, is as easy as it comes. You just, uh, you know, it's basically just direct. We have like a DI box connects to the computer, plug it
Mm-hmm.
in. You can choose whatever tone you want on Ableton and you play it. It's really simple. It's not, as far as like equipment goes. You need a paid version of Ableton. You need probably a MacBook. You need some sort of way to transfer, the guitar to the computer, and then that's it. I mean, it's really simple.
So is it less capable than like an entire studio setup that you might have though?
Yeah,
As
I mean, it like I said, most everything we record is all rough. I
Okay.
mean, obviously a studio is infinitely better than what we're doing, but yeah, we don't use any mics or anything like that. It's all direct in, because it just serves for the function that we need it. It's not really, um, it's not really important for it to sound really good right now. It's more important that we have the ideas of the songs down and kind of like a direction so that I could start to write lyrics. I mean, that's basically the function that we're using it for.
Right, right. So I mean, in terms of like rap, like I don't know if you listen to rap at all, but
Not too much, but
that seems to be the current approach with a lot of rappers nowadays. Is at least a lot of the ones that have come up recently. Like Juice World, who is also from Chicago. Um, though they have just been using laptops to create their music. Like I'm sure they might have a few pieces of equipment, but for the most
sure.
part, a lot of these guys nowadays are just completely skipping over the overhead that is required of like a major studio. And I was wondering if that's even possible for like a band like Harm's Way.
I mean, you could. I mean, you could. I mean, but in my opinion, like Harm's Way is more of a traditional band in the sense that we want to use like amps, we want to use guitar heads, we want to use different bass heads, we want to use physical guitars. I mean, it's questionable that like a lot of bands do it live. They use they use boards, they use fake tones, you know. But like I think music loses a lot of its authenticity when it comes
Right.
from just using electronic stuff. I mean, anybody. I mean, the reality is anybody could do it.
Right.
It doesn't take any talent, in my opinion, to have creating a tone that's already set for you on a board. And because a big part about music is finding tones, finding diversity within you know something as simple as using a different snare or using different room mics or using whatever. you know, if you use the internet, Ableton only, I mean, you the way things sound is it's pretty limited. It's and you could tell. I mean, a lot of shitty bands use like only online tones and things like that. And it
Right.
sounds like overproduced garbage to me, you know? Like it's easy to do like double bass and shit when you have like triggers and things like
Yeah.
that. It to me, I understand that for some musical styles or genres, like that's what people want. But in my opinion, I wouldn't even want to be in a band if we totally disregarded, putting effort into finding tones, finding how we wanted drums to sound, finding, specific vocal things or whatever. It's like bands that use fucking, auto tune all the time or whatever.
Right.
It's not real. That's fake, you know?
Right.
So like what's separating, you from starting some Justin Bieber pop band? If
Right.
you have this expensive equipment that's going to transform your voice into something beautiful, most people can tell that auto tone is applied to a lot of things, but like, I think you're talking about like a common person, like they might not know.
Hmm.
So like a lot of the music that's mainstream and things like that, it's pretty much trash in my opinion, but a lot of it is just like overproduced. Most of the people don't write their own music. They don't write their own lyrics. They don't write their own beats. It's just like,
Right.
who gives a shit then?
Right.
Like
Right.
why even be a musician? Like
And
that totally goes against my code of what being a musician is. You know. So
and
sorry for the rant, but that's how
oh no,
that's
you're
how.
good, man. You can rant as long as you want. I definitely think that is the appeal to music of your scene, the metal scene, punk scene, even like as far as the underground rap scene goes, is I think people are looking for that raw, natural sound that goes with that. People want to hear what's coming from the heart and the soul. They're not looking. I mean, obviously, there's always going to be the mainstream audience that are just hearing it because it's got a tune that can easily click in their head. You know,
Sure.
but the great thing about guys like you, the bands that you work with, is you're making music that is going to stick with people for probably most of their entire lives, as
Yeah.
opposed to
At least I hope so.
right. I mean, I definitely think in terms of music and how it ages, is it's always the cream rises to the crop. You don't you when you look back on the 1990s, you don't really think of the number one song, whatever it may have been in like 1995. People look back on Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, those bands that maybe at their time, well, Nirvana was pretty popular, but bands that at their time maybe weren't exactly the Britney Spears of that era, but they looked back on with such great appreciation for the raw music that they were bringing to the table during that time.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying? I definitely think that I don't ever think that there will ever be a lack of people that want to appreciate music for exactly what it is. And I always think there'll be a huge audience looking for that. I mean, just go to any guitar center. You see a lot of dudes in there just looking to make music, man. And
Yeah.
it's great to see. It's great to see. And I definitely think with where technology is at now, it's gotten even better in the sense that communities of subgenres have only gotten bigger. I mean, Mayhem, that black metal band, and
Yeah.
they have a movie now. Who would have thought that that band of all bands would have a movie after them? But it and black metal seems to be getting pretty big, or at least it was there for like 2 or 3 years ago. A lot of people really getting into that. Like I said, with that momentum that the whole hardcore scene had going for it, I've never seen so many people repping Harm's Way merch, Knocked Loose merch. You guys were really breaking into not necessarily the mainstream, but becoming well-known names within at least the
Sure.
rock community. Kind of like Alice in Chains. Maybe Alice in Chains isn't as big as like Nirvana, but if you listen to rock, you probably know who Alice in Chains are
Yeah. Of
for,
course.
for the most part.
Yo,
Uh,
real quick, I gotta wrap this up soon. So if you have any more questions you want to ask,
all right.
uh, just let me know.
Uh, who would you like to tour with? Right when let's say COVID vaccine comes out tomorrow, who would you want to tour with the most?
I mean, two of my favorite bands to tour with are Knock Loose and Every Time I Die. Um, and that's just because we get along really well. And I think those are two of the best bands as far as like, you know, quality of people,
Mm-hmm.
and as far as the audiences that those bands draw are I don't know, they're just really open minded, and they're people who you could tell really enjoy music.
Right.
And Every Time I Die, Knock Loose are those guys are some of my favorite people to be around. And to be honest, after all this time of not playing shows and stuff, I think it'd be a nice little enjoyable tour to have them to come out. You know, because we've done a tour together before, Harm's Way, Knock Loose, and Every Time I Die, and it was awesome. It's one of my favorite tours I've ever done, actually. Um, and I just think it would be really enjoyable to have something like that.
Oh yeah. I want to say that was actually the tour that I saw you on in Tucson. I bought a shirt off of you at the merch stand,
Sure.
and yeah, that show was insane. That show was anybody who listens to this. If you ever get a chance to see Harm's Way, Knock Loose, and Every Time I Die perform on the same stage together, it's insane. It is a fun time.
For
Um,
sure.
one more thing, what can people expect coming out of the new album that you guys are currently working on?
I mean, basically, obviously there'll always be a touch of Harm's Way to everything, but there's definitely going to be the songs we have now are a lot more aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
maybe slightly more death metal. Um, there's definitely a lot more harder songs, and mixed with some risks, I will say. But as a band who's been around for 12 years, you can't be playing the same shit every single
Right,
day.
right.
So they can expect, a heavy record, but there's going to be probably some surprises and some things that people might not expect, I would say.
Are you gonna be mixing industrial into it, kind of like you did with the last album?
Yeah, that's always going to be a part of what we want.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly how much we're going to have in there, but I would say as much, probably more than Posthuman. So,
Okay, sweet. So is there anything else you'd want to say to anybody that's gonna listen to this?
no, I guess all I want to say is, check out harmsway13.com. Check out the Instagram for any updates or anything like that. Make sure you wear a mask if you want to do that. But other than that, that's it.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely, man.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
You as well.